Hi, Sensei Steve here, Classical Martial Arts of Long Island, and I want to talk to you for a moment about the benefits of martial arts for kids. Now, what do I mean by kids? Well, kids, we start them as young as 4, and we go all the way up through teenagers and as they get to be adults, because teenagers, of course, consider themselves adults. That's a discussion we could have on another day. But what are the benefits for kids? Well, we teach classical martial arts, things that have a long history, things that are more traditional. And so we wear uniforms and we bow and we do things like that, but that doesn't really make it traditional. That keeps a certain cultural dynamic to it. But what makes something more classical or traditional, it's been passed down. And when we look at the classical or traditional martial arts, there's a benefit in a certain level of character development. Well, all sports have character development, certainly. They can teach you sportsmanship and hard work. They can teach you goal setting and working towards it. However, when we talk about the martial arts, the interesting thing is that in the martial arts, whenever we work with people, we can work together and we're challenged by someone else who's our friend in the dojo, who's our friend when we train with them, but also who's someone who's trying to challenge us, either if we're doing some interactive thing, such as sparring, or we're doing something like in judo, where we're trying to take them down, or we're trying to hold them down and get them in a lock, like in jiu-jitsu. So they're challenging us in a certain way physically. They're not letting us do exactly what we want to do. And one of the things we have to learn is how not to get upset with that. We have to learn how to deal with the frustration. Deal with the frustration, work around the frustration. That's one of the big things that we learn in the martial arts, and it's an enormous benefit to children, because many times in school, if they are frustrated by something and they get very upset, well, there's not really a space in the regular school system for them to express that without sometimes getting in trouble. Well, here on the mat, you can get upset. If you get really upset, right, we'll certainly keep you safe and take you away from the other little kid. But then we have pads to hit, we have things to throw, we have ways to work through those emotions and kind of get them processed and then work again. And we also work so that the challenges aren't so insurmountable. They've got to be challenges that we bring you to step by step in a stepwise format that let you learn how to stay safe, how to stay challenged, and let the other person, the person who's working with you, also appreciate that they need to preserve the opponent, preserve the other person. This is a classical martial arts idea. You see it in all sorts of sports. If you see 2 boxers, well, boxers hit each other. They don't really want to hurt each other permanently. If they do, something's not quite right in that attitude, right? The same thing in MMA. Right, 2 MMA fighters want to compete. One wants to win, the other guy wants to win. They both want to win. They don't want to hurt each other permanently. If they do, yeah, they got to work on that a little bit. But that's very true in the classical martial arts, where we talk about preservation of the other person, preserving the other person's honor, preserving the other person, throwing the other person down in a way that the person can land safely. Sometimes not winning that match so as not to hurt the other person. So learning the preservation of the other person, who is the challenger to you, the person who in some sense is an irritant to you, who maybe you could say is my opponent. But how can my opponent be preserved? How can my enemy maybe become my friend? There's a big challenge. But part of that is the ethos and the mindset of the martial arts for children, training them to understand that, to understand control, response, and responses with limitations. That's a big part of the martial arts. Additionally, when we train in the martial arts, we train both together, challenging each other, and we train separately. We train in the performance of a kick, a punch, the use of a weapon, a traditional weapon, a form, a sequence, all things where we perfect ourselves, where the only person challenging us is ourself. Well, quite honestly, sometimes that's the biggest challenger. Sometimes that's the person you got to wrestle with the most. And for children, and when I say children, I mean not just the 4-year-olds, the 5-year-olds, but all the way up, sometimes to the 30-year-olds, sometimes to the 40-year-olds, sometimes to the 50-year-olds, because inside us all is that little child who challenges us and says, I can't do it. I didn't do it right. I suck. I'm terrible. And yells at us from inside at whatever age. And coming to be able to do something in a performance format that matches a standard of methods that have been passed down for a long time. Some of these methods over 1,000 years. cool old methods and you say, wait a minute, a whole bunch of warriors of the past did these moves, and I'm doing that move too. Well, that's one of the things we do in like sword class, where we're studying Iaido, the traditional sword drawing method, and we're not competing, right? Because we are using real swords. In those type of things, we're perfecting ourselves. In many things, we're perfecting ourselves. We're working on ourself and trying to get out of our own way. Now, this whole thing we're talking about now is children. Well, with kids, teaching them how to navigate themselves, control their emotions, work towards a goal, perfect themselves. That carries over beyond the mat. And that's the value, because that carries over into school, into one day into work, into family relations, how to preserve your friend in the argument with your friend as much as you preserve your partner on the mat, how to perfect yourself and make yourself better, whether it's on the mat doing a form or whether it's for a math test or the SAT. Those things help. So there's a lot of value on the mat for kids. So we invite you to come on down, come to Classical Martial Arts on Long Island, have your kids come down, try it out, see if they like it, see if you like us. We give everybody a 2-week free trial, right? And then see if those lessons and those benefits on the mat can carry over to the rest of your day. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.